Hi folks, and welcome back to Travels with Hannah and James, and today we are visiting one of my favourite cities in the world, the Cite of Carcassonne. We're going to enter the fortress through the main Narbonne gate, at which is a bust of Dame Carcasse herself. With its 2 layers of fortified walls, Carcassonne is surely one of the most impressive medieval fortresses that remains in Europe today. There's been a walled city on this location ever since Roman times, but the structure that we see nowadays really dates back to the 12th to 14th century, when Carcassonne was a Cathar stronghold. I love the fact that we've just walked in through the main gate, and already we've encountered a food market sandwiched between the outer and inner walls of the city. It makes me think that this might have been how the city was 1,000 years ago. Loads of really nice looking local produce on sale. I spotted a local gingerbread maker and had to try some. Oh yes, it was good. And you know what that meant? I had to buy some. Inside the city there are a lot of tourist junk shops, but I kind of like it, it's kind of fun. There's even a shiny knight guarding the sweet shop. Given its age, the city is in remarkably good condition, although it wasn't always so. In the middle medieval period, it fell into fairly bad disrepair, but thankfully was rescued by an architect called Eugène Viollet-le-Duc. As you can imagine, Carcassonne is a pretty popular location for shooting medieval-themed movies, one being Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. The city is full of these narrow, cobbled streets, and so we had a jolly good wander around. we have the Basilica of Saint-Nazaire. By now it's about time for lunch, and just round the corner from the Basilica we found a lovely restaurant called Le Jardin du Carcasse. Seated in lovely outdoor surroundings, we enjoyed some really nice starters. And for the main course, while Hannah enjoyed squid, the rest of us had cassoulet. Cassoulet is a very traditional dish in this region of France. It's basically a bean and meat, often sausage and duck, stew. And finally, a delicious creme brulee for dessert. After such a copious and delicious lunch, it was time to get walking again to work it off. Here we're walking around the outside of the city, between the outer and the inner walls. Carcassonne is famous for all of the towers along the outside of the walls, of which there are no less than 53. In some places, the space between the walls can be quite large, but in others, it can get pretty narrow, as you can see here. Unfortunately, when it came to the crunch, these fantastic walls didn't really help out in the end. In the 1209 Albigensian Crusade, the city was under siege for only 15 days until it ran out of water, and Viscount Raymond Roger Trancavel had to surrender to the attacking northern barons. The unusual stripes that you can see on the walls there are actually part of a giant piece of artwork. If you wander around the streets for long enough, you will eventually come across the Château Comtal, which was the family home of Raymond Roger Trancavel and was effectively the keep of Carcassonne. You can visit, but it's worth noting that entry is not free. Inside the chateau, we get a quick glimpse of Eugène Viollet-le-Duc, the architect who restored the city. And a very detailed model of what the city walls look like. A visit to the Château Comtal includes the opportunity to walk along quite a lot of the walls as well. This is all that's left of the original barbican, which has been flattened and a church has been built in its place. Fairly recently, some medieval artwork was discovered under the plaster that had been applied to these ceilings and walls. The plaster was removed and the artwork has been restored, and in my opinion it really is quite fantastic. There's been some controversy over the years on how accurately these towers have been restored to how they should have been in medieval times. I believe some people say that the roofs should have been made flat instead of pointed as they are here. However, in my opinion, it just wouldn't look quite as quaint. I'm just going to let you enjoy the views of and from the walls for a few minutes now. So here we have a great view of the Chateau Comtal along the walls. There is a bit of a legend surrounding the name Carcassonne, which goes along these lines, and it's basically dated back to the 8th century in the wars between the Christians and Muslims in the southwest of Europe. The city at the time was under Saracen rule, and in particular under the rule of a lady named Dame Carcasse. The legend says that Charlemagne besieged the city for 6 years to try and retake it from the Saracens for the Franks. You can imagine that after 6 years the food situation in the city was becoming critical, and Dame Carcasse asked her servants to take an inventory of all the remaining reserves. Her servants brought her a pig and a sack of wheat. With this meagre offering, she decided to feed the pig with the wheat, kill it, and then throw it out of the highest tower of the city. Charlemagne, dismayed to see that the city could easily throw away food like this, and realising that the siege might continue for many more years, decided to end the siege and go home. As the Frankish army was packing up to leave, Dame Carcasse ordered that all the bells in the city should be rung to celebrate the victory. The Frankish soldiers heard the bells and said, "Ah, Carcasse, son!" And that's where the name is supposed to have originated from. Now, I must add that a fair amount of research has been done on this legend, and it has actually been proven to be completely false. None of that actually happened, the timings just don't work out. But it still makes for a great story. Here in one corner of the city, we have a fantastic view over the open-air theatre. And here's a better view of the basilica. The walls are really in very good condition. So by now we're coming to the end of the audio guide tour, and we're just going to return the guides into a wooden box. Finally, if you thought the city was pretty during the daytime, you should definitely come back at night, where it gets lit up by loads of lights and it shines like gold. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video and catch you next time.